The Caribbean is not built on calm. It sits on fault lines, storm paths, and open water where beauty survives only by adapting to forces strong enough to erase it overnight. Here, volcanoes rise straight from the depths of the sea. Unstable slopes plunge into deep water. Beside white sand beaches and glass-clear lagoons, the beauty appears utterly effortless, masking how close the line between creation and destruction really is. Every year, humpback whales cross continents and vast oceans to reach these pristine waters. They come to give birth in brief windows of safety, raising calves where warmth just barely replaces the dangers of the sea. Across the islands, culture moves with rhythm, color, and sound, echoing a vibe born through generations of coastal life. But even then, without warning, the same sea turns violent. Hurricanes tear through streets, ports, and homes, reminding every island that even they belong to the sea. Believe it or not, to understand the Caribbean, you have to look past the beauty. And follow whatever survives, while everything else is pushed to the edge. Over millions of years, the Caribbean slowly formed as parts of the Earth's crust shifted, collided, and pulled apart beneath warm tropical seas. Volcanoes pushed islands upward, while softer limestone areas eroded and settled into wide, shallow banks. Warm ocean currents carry heat and moisture here, fueling clouds, rainfall, and seasonal storms that pass from island to island. The crystal-clear water here allows coral reefs to grow, breaking waves and helping to create the white sand beaches and turquoise shallows the region is known for. Wildlife adapted alongside these conditions, learning when to migrate, nest, and feed within narrow seasonal windows. Together, land, water, weather, and life shaped a region built on so many dissimilarities, yet somehow they gave rise to some of the most beautiful coastlines on Earth. And just like that, patterns of rivers and reefs start to narrow, drawing attention toward the first island that stands tall against the horizon. This is the heart of the Caribbean. Mist settles in Jamaica over the Blue Mountains each morning, catching the first light as it moves across ridges lined with coffee farms and narrow forest roads. Rivers run down these slopes in quick, cool channels, shaping quiet pools and sliding eventually toward the calmer shores around Port Antonio. Along the western coast, Negril's limestone cliffs rise above clear water, creating sharp edges that have become one of the island's most recognizable scenes. Dunn's River Falls moves in steady steps toward the sea, forming a natural staircase polished by constant flow. At night, the luminous lagoon glows under drifting clouds of bioluminescent plankton. Kingston adds a different texture entirely, where music, murals, and street culture give Jamaica a rhythm that feels present in every part of the island and is known around the world. In the hills above Kingston, the sound of Bob Marley's lyrics still feels connected to the land. These valleys shaped the early Rasta communities. Their culture lives through everyday choices, simplicity, reflection, and a steady relationship with the island's natural rhythms. The streamer-tail hummingbird flashes through Jamaica's forests with a metallic sheen, moving in quick arcs between flowers as it defends narrow feeding grounds. Its iconic long tail ribbons twist as it hovers, using rapid, precise wing beats to hold position in turbulent air. This icon of Jamaica follows blooming plants that shift with the island's natural rainfall cycles. Moist forest air fades into wider Caribbean winds as the journey moves east, tracing the shape of the Greater Antilles, where mountains rise and fall in long, connected chains. Rivers narrow into distant lines, and the coastline begins to fracture into new forms: caves, cliffs, and limestone valleys shaped by centuries of rain. Karst valleys unfold across western Cuba in long green corridors framed by limestone cliffs. The island carries a rhythm shaped by music, history, and its position between deep currents and wide shallows. Viñales Valley sits at the heart of this landscape, with Mogoti Hills rising like ancient pillars above tobacco farms and quiet rural tracks. Along the northern coast, Varadero's long white sand peninsula extends into clear water, revealing a shelf of reefs just offshore. Farther south, Jardines de la Reina forms one of the Caribbean's most protected marine sanctuaries, as a remote maze of coral ridges and mangrove channels. Havana stands at the shoreline, with forts, colonial streets, and a classic car culture talked about around the world. Cuba is also very well known for its world-famous cigar industry and culture. It's an icon in the trade, with a tourism industry of its own. As Cuba's broad silhouette fades into distance, the mountains of the next island rise sharply from the horizon, signaling a shift toward taller terrain and faster-moving water. The Dominican Republic has a landscape shaped by elevation, rainfall, and strong cultural identity. Pico Duarte anchors the interior, with its cool forests overlooking valleys lined with farmland and small communities rooted in long-standing traditions. Rivers run down from these high ridges, forming waterfalls like Salto de Jimenoa and Salto El Limón, each fed by constant mountain moisture. On the eastern coast, Punta Cana stretches for miles. It's a tourism hotspot, with bright beaches lying where warm currents push against one of the Caribbean's busiest reef systems. Offshore, calm bays around Samaná begin to fill with movement each winter as one of the Caribbean's most storied migrations arrives from the open Atlantic. Each winter, humpback whales return to the Samaná Peninsula to give birth and raise newborn calves in warm, sheltered water. Mothers guide their young to the surface with slow, deliberate motions as calves learn to balance buoyancy and breath. Deep calls travel across the bay as adults communicate in low, resonant tones that drift far beyond the shallows. calves stay close for protection, building strength before beginning their long journey north. When the season shifts, the whales follow ancient migratory routes stretching thousands of miles toward colder feeding grounds they have known for eons. The arc of islands continues eastward towards steeper ridges and coastlines shaped by long histories and rugged terrain. Here, Haiti rises in steep mountain ranges that shape nearly every horizon across the island. Its cultural identity appears in art, ceremony, and daily life rooted in endurance and community strength. The Massif de la Hotte holds rare pockets of biodiversity, including cloud forests and secluded limestone plateaus. The citadel La Ferrière crowns a northern ridge, standing above the plains as a symbol of independence and resilience. Along the coast, the sheltered Bay of Labadie sits between calm water and protective headlands, while nearby fishing communities rely on narrow channels and predictable currents. Haiti's mountains, coasts, and history collide into a landscape that marks one of the most dramatic sections of the Greater Antilles. And by this point in that drama, a pattern begins to emerge across the Caribbean. Warm ocean currents circulate through the region, feeding energy into the atmosphere, while steady trade winds push violent weather systems from east to west. During hurricane season, that same warm water becomes fuel, allowing storms to strengthen rapidly as they cross open sea. Some islands absorb that impact through mountains and forests, while others lie fully exposed. The Caribbean is not just a collection of islands, it is a working system where ocean temperature, wind, and geography decide which places endure and which must constantly rebuild. From the deep ridges of the Caribbean arc, the landscape widens into a new world, one shaped not by mountains rising out of the sea, but by vast submerged plateaus glowing beneath a sheet of shifting light. Storms soften as they cross these banks, and light bends differently here. water turns into mirror-bright expanses, and the ocean plunges again into sudden turquoise blues. Broad limestone platforms rise beneath the dazzling Bahamas, an archipelago of more than 700 islands and over 2,000 cays spread across some of the clearest water on Earth. The region carries a relaxed, open-air culture shaped by Junkanoo rhythms, maritime traditions, and communities built around fishing, boating, and trade. Nassau looks over these banks with fort-lined hills, older colonial streets, and the recognizable resort towers of Paradise Island, which hosts one of the largest casinos and aquariums in all of the Caribbean. In the Exumas, narrow cays divide the sea into electric blue channels, and Pig Beach has become one of the region's most curious fixtures, where feral pigs swim out to visitors in water so clear it looks unreal. Great Inagua's salt ponds attract thousands of flamingos, moving through warm shallows that shift color throughout the day. The Bahamas is defined by clarity, bright sand, wide horizons, and a maritime identity tied to the rhythm of its pristine shallow waters. Just beyond these banks, a reef shark moves along the contours of the shelf as if following lines that only it can see. Reef sharks patrol the Bahamian shallows in slow, deliberate circuits shaped by depth, water temperature, and the pull of nearby currents. They glide past coral heads where cleaner fish gather, rising into brighter water before sinking back toward ledges draped in soft shadow. As apex predators, they help stabilize reef communities by regulating mid-level hunters and preventing any single species from overrunning the system. And here, in the clear Bohemian water, their silhouettes appear long before they arrive. But these same shallow banks also sit directly in the path of storms that gain strength over warm, open water. With little elevation and nowhere for surge to dissipate, even distant hurricanes can reshape entire islands overnight. Calm here in the Bahamas is real, but never permanent. Turks and Caicos emerges along the edge of the continental plateau, a territory of roughly 40 low islands and cays defined by limestone, turquoise water, and an abrupt descent into open ocean. The culture here leans toward quiet coastal life, small harbors, and long-standing ties to fishing and the old salt industry. Providenciales anchors the chain with Grace Bay, a wide, calm beach often singled out for its clarity and gentle gradient into the sea. Inland, former salt ponds and mangrove thickets create sheltered basins where herons, egrets, and juvenile fish feed and hide. Just offshore, the shelf drops away, forming dramatic walls lined with sponges, soft corals, and schools of smaller fish that move as one over the ledge. It sits exactly where the bank ends and deeper Atlantic water begins, bridging two very different marine worlds. Near this drop-off, an eagle ray lifts from the sand and rises along the slope, its wings catching fractured light as it glides toward the open water above the wall. They sweep across the Turks and Caicos Plateau with long, unhurried strokes, gliding over sand flats and patches of coral rubble in near silence. The patterned back breaks up their outline from above, while their pale undersides flash briefly each time they climb through the water column. Past this edge, where the shelf disappears, the Caribbean shifts to islands built from wind, heat, and exposed limestone. Here the sea grows brighter again, bending light across desert shrubs and long dry coastlines shaped by relentless trade winds. Waves break differently along this arc, scattering against pale rock instead of rainforest cliffs. The islands ahead reveal a Caribbean defined not by height or rainfall, but by openness, arid landscapes and coastlines carved into simple, striking forms. This is Aruba, rising from the dry southern arc, with a landscape shaped by desert winds, bright beaches, and a culture influenced by Dutch Caribbean heritage and island warmth. Eagle Beach spreads along the western shore in a long arc of white sand, and divi-divi trees lean permanently under the push of steady trade winds. Baby Beach curves around a shallow, protected lagoon where families gather and snorkelers drift over calm seagrass. It's named that way because how shallow the water is. Inland, Arikok National Park holds volcanic formations, rugged trails, and natural pools tucked between weathered cliffs. Renaissance Island offers one of Aruba's most recognizable scenes. Flamingos wading through shallow blue-green water just beyond quiet sandbars. The island carries an easygoing pace grounded in coastal living and a pinch of arid terrain with crystal clear shallows. And then, a narrow line of pink feathers lifts across the shallows of the southern Caribbean. The Caribbean flamingo feeds by sweeping its downward curved bill through warm, mineral-dense water. Flocks gather in shifting groups, filtering brine shrimp and algae that produce the pigments coloring their feathers. Their nests rise from mud in raised cones, built high enough to protect eggs from heat and changes in water level. Social behavior is tightly coordinated. Flocks move, feed, and shift location together, reacting to subtle changes in salinity and tide. And the most interesting thing of all, this flock sticks together just like loyal Travpedia subscribers. So why not do us a big favor and join them by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Don't forget to tap the bell icon as well, so you don't miss out on the next documentary. You will not want to miss it. Just beyond the salt flats, the coastline hardens into limestone ledges, pastel harbour districts, and deeper coves shaped by steady wind. Warm trade winds carry into Curaçao, an island recognized for its bright waterfront in Willemstad, and for reefs that drop sharply into deeper water. Handelsgard forms one of the Caribbean's most iconic harbour views, each building painted in soft pastel colours facing the channel. Small coves, such as Playa Kenepa, open beneath rocky headlands into water clear enough to reveal coral shelves from the surface. Offshore, the Curaçao Underwater Marine Park protects a long stretch of reef, sponge gardens, and steep ledges where divers descend into blue depth. Inland, dry forests and limestone terraces frame small communities shaped by African, European and Caribbean influences. Curaçao's character is color, culture and coastline in a single distinct rhythm. As the underwater park tapers into deeper blue, the shoreline turns quieter and the reefs draw closer to land. Protected waters surround Bonaire, an island widely recognized for its conservation efforts and near-pristine reefs. Nearly the entire coastline functions as a marine reserve, allowing coral communities to remain unusually healthy. Salt pyramids rise along the southern edge, bright against shallow flats, where flamingos gather in warm pools. Offshore, coral formations begin only steps from shore, providing habitat for turtles, reef fish, and slow-growing sponges. Lac Bay expands into a calm lagoon, where windsurfers trace long paths over shallow water, and nearby mangroves shelter nurseries for countless marine species. Bonaire's identity rests on clarity and preservation, as well as on long-standing rules that protect its reefs, coastal habitats, and quiet desert landscapes. From the air, the Caribbean often looks calm, but this region sits directly beneath one of the planet's most active storm corridors. Each year, heat builds silently across open water, tightening weather systems into hurricanes that sweep across island chains with little warning. Paths repeat, coastlines absorb impact, and entire communities brace for forces they cannot redirect. What appears peaceful is often temporary. Trade winds tighten as the journey leaves the arid southern arc and moves into a region where islands rise closer together, forming sheltered channels once crossed by sailors, traders, and storms moving along predictable routes. Here, the terrain grows greener, the water deepens, and bays cut sharply into volcanic rock. Soft morning light reveals the hills of the Virgin Islands, a cluster of more than 50 islands and cays recognized for calm harbors, sheltered reefs, and a long maritime history. The British Virgin Islands hold iconic coastlines, such as the Baths on Virgin Gorda, where massive granite boulders create narrow passages and the pools filled with bright filtered water. Tortola rises in steeper terrain, with Road Town's harbour anchoring ferry routes and local fishing fleets. Coral gardens lie just offshore, supporting rays, reef fish and turtles that move between seagrass meadows and deeper ledges. The culture here merges British, African and Caribbean roots, carried through music, festivals, and a laid-back vibe around calm bays and open sea. The channels widen slightly as the next pair of islands comes into view, framed by long beaches and low rolling hills. Gentle trade winds sweep across Antigua and Barbuda, a twin island nation recognized for its sailing culture, bright beaches, and long tradition of coastal life. Antigua's shoreline holds more than 300 beaches, with places like Dickinson Bay and Jolly Harbour offering some of the island's most iconic scenes of calm Caribbean water. Inland, old sugar mill towers stand above fields and rural communities, reminders of the island's layered history. Barbuda offers a different tone: quiet pink sand beaches, vast bird sanctuaries, and lagoon shallows that brighten under midday sun. Across both islands, the culture reflects a strong connection to the sea, from regattas and fishing traditions to rhythms rooted in calypso and local storytelling. As these beaches fade behind the bow, the horizon sharpens into a single island split between two cultures. Warm currents gather around St. Martin, a small island uniquely divided between two nations, the northern French territory of Saint-Martin and the southern Dutch territory of Sint-Maarten, each shaping the island's culture in distinct ways. On the French side, Grand Case and Orient Bay reflect a blend of Creole and European influences, emphasizing food, small markets, and hillside neighborhoods that overlook quiet coves. The Dutch side carries a livelier tempo centered around Philipsburg's harbour, resort districts, and the famous runway at Maho Beach, where aircraft descend low over the sand. Limestone hills rise behind both territories, forming viewpoints over turquoise bays, where sailboats anchor in sheltered water. Coral reefs fringe the island edge, supporting turtles, schooling fish, and calm ledges that mirror the split identity of the shoreline. Two cultures sharing one terrain, connected by the same sea. And then, the volcanic profile of another island appears against deep green forest. The slopes of St. Kitts and Nevis rise steeply from the sea, forming two volcanic peaks surrounded by narrow coastal plains and small, close-knit communities. St. Kitts carries Brimstone Hill Fortress, a massive stone stronghold overlooking open ocean and inland valleys. Basseterre spreads across a gentle curve of coastline, lined with markets, piers and streets influenced by British colonial architecture. Nevis holds quieter beaches, old plantation sites, and the cloud-covered summit of Nevis Peak. Moving through the forest canopy, a quick movement reveals the presence of the vervet monkey, a species that has become part of the daily landscape on St. Kitts. Introduced centuries ago, they now roam the hillsides, farmlands, and forest edges of the island in small, agile groups. On the ground, they cross open fields with short, careful bursts of speed before climbing again to higher cover. Though not native, vervet monkeys have adapted fully to the island's terrain, becoming a familiar presence at dawn and dusk when they travel most actively between hillside roosts and feeding grounds. Beyond these twin peaks, the Caribbean transforms into sharper valleys, heavier rainfall, and landscapes sculpted by geothermal energy, leading toward one of the region's most dramatic islands. The journey reaches Dominica, a rugged, rainforest-covered island recognized for its waterfalls, volcanic peaks, and deep river valleys. The interior holds narrow gorges where cool water gathers in rock pools formed by centuries of erosion. Boiling Lake and nearby sulfur springs release steady clouds of steam from fissures beneath the forest floor. Along the west coast, Champagne Beach releases strings of volcanic bubbles through coral and seagrass in warm, mineral-rich water. Offshore, steep underwater walls fall rapidly into deep pelagic zones where marine life gathers. Dominica's villages, built along ridgelines and coastal curves, reflect a culture shaped by land, sea, and a strong connection to its intense natural environment. Along these offshore walls, deep calls vibrate through the water, signals from the sperm whales that live year-round off Dominica's coast. They move along the island's steep underwater slopes, diving thousands of feet to hunt squid in dark pelagic channels. Females and young form tight family units, communicating through patterned clicks that travel enormous distances underwater. Calves stay close to their mothers as they learn to hold breath, orient in deep water, and navigate strong offshore currents. Older whales surface slowly, releasing heavy breaths before sinking again along the canyon walls. Dominica is one of the few places where these deep-diving whales live so close to shore, drawn by the narrow trench that provides reliable feeding grounds throughout the year. By the way, friends, have you checked out the free Travpedia VIP link in this video's description? It's your gateway to travel deals and products for Globetrotters. No sign-up is required. Head on over to travpediavip.com today and begin your journey for free. A gradual thinning of steam along Dominica's interior hints at the volcanic silhouettes waiting farther south, drawing the journey toward islands built by both fire and coral. Rising sharply from the sea, St. Lucia reveals forested slopes, old volcanic ridges, and the dramatic twin peaks of the Pitons rising almost vertically from blue water. The town of Soufriere sits beneath these steep spires, surrounded by sulfur springs, botanical gardens, and narrow valleys that hold some of the island's richest rainforest. The island carries a balance of quiet coastal communities and iconic scenes like Sugar Beach, where white sand rests directly between the Python's sheer walls. Inland, hidden waterfalls drop into cool basins, and the only drive-in volcano in the Caribbean releases steady sulfur steam beside thick vegetation. Culture and landscape merge here, modeled by French and English influence. When storms arrive in this volcanic part of the Caribbean, rain falls fast and heavy. Water has little time to settle, triggering landslides, collapsing cliffs, and sudden floods that race downhill toward the sea. In places like this, gravity and weather work together, turning beauty into absolute instability in a matter of hours. Bright shallows widen again as the volcanic ridges fall away, guiding the journey toward a chain of islands shaped by smaller peaks and scattered reefs. Across a long arc of ocean, sights Saint Vincent and the Grenadines, an island nation defined by La Soufrière volcano on the main island, and a constellation of smaller cays stretching south toward open water. Bequia, Mayro, and the Tobago cays form a bright mosaic of reefs, sandbars, and shallow channels where turtles graze and small boats drift in calm wind. St. Vincent's interior holds deep valleys carved by rainfall, while coastal communities follow patterns of fishing, boat building, and movement between nearby islands. The Grenadines carry a relaxed, sea-focused culture with quiet harbors and a long tradition of sailing across short distances. Nearby, a single green shape moves through a clear channel, rising briefly toward the surface before sinking again in slow, practiced rhythm. The green sea turtle grazes across these southern reefs, feeding on seagrass beds and algae that anchor themselves along shallow shelves. Mature turtles travel long distances between feeding grounds and nesting beaches, sometimes crossing entire island chains to return to the same strip of sand where they hatched. Juveniles tend to stay near protected lagoons, growing slowly while avoiding predators among coral outcrops. As adults, they become central to reef balance, trimming seagrass, distributing nutrients, and maintaining open areas for fish and invertebrates. And just as the turtle drifts toward deeper water, the horizon ahead brightens into pale cliffs and the soft curve of an island built not by fire, but by ancient coral uplift. This is none other than Barbados, an island formed from coral limestone rather than volcanic rock. The landscape tilts upward in rolling terraces, with the Scotland district revealing eroded hills and exposed geological layers formed by uplift from the ocean floor. Bridgetown sits along a natural harbour, carrying a culture influenced by centuries of British presence, cricket grounds, and everyday life centred around markets, music, and the island's lighter, open-air rhythm. Along the west coast, calm waters and fringing reefs offer bright scenes at places like Carlisle Bay, while the Atlantic coast presents a rougher edge shaped by stronger swell. Barbados stands apart geologically, an island built upward from a rising coral platform marked by sea caves, limestone cliffs, and long, gentle plains. A subtle shift in underwater texture carries us as a new island rises in view. Forest-covered ridges mark the profile of Grenada, an island where volcanic slopes, deep valleys, and old plantation lands meet clear southern water. St. George's curves around a horseshoe-shaped harbour lined with colourful buildings and steep hillside streets. Inland, rainforests and spice plantations reveal the island's long association with nutmeg, cinnamon, and cocoa. Along the western coast, the underwater sculpture park forms one of Grenada's most distinct features. Human figures placed on the seabed and slowly taken over by coral, sponges, and schooling fish. Farther south, sheltered bays host reefs, seagrass beds, and calm anchorages that connect village life to the surrounding sea. At the edge of coral shelves, none other than an octopus slips across the seabed with remarkable control, shifting color, texture, and pattern in an instant. It explores cracks and small caves with flexible arms capable of tasting as they touch, searching for crabs and shellfish hidden inside. When threatened, it releases a cloud of ink and disappears into nearby rock, blending flawlessly with coral or rubble. Octopuses learn quickly, remembering hiding spots, prey behavior, and routes across the reef. Their short lives are defined by problem-solving, adaptation, and the ability to vanish almost completely, making them some of the most elusive creatures found in the southern Caribbean. As the last traces of volcanic rock fade into open water, the Caribbean prepares for a quieter place, one shaped by past eruptions, new forests, and the steady return of life after upheaval. Here, the dark outline of Montserrat emerges, an island reshaped by the eruptions of Soufriere Hills that began in the mid-1990s. The southern half remains an exclusion zone, where ash-covered rooftops, buried streets, and the silent remains of Plymouth sit frozen beneath layers of volcanic deposits. Yet the northern side tells a different story. Forests reclaiming old farmland, villages rebuilt on safer ground, and steep green slopes rising above calm bays. Steam still escapes through fractures near the volcano, while observation towers and monitoring equipment track the mountain's slow, unpredictable movements. Along coastal cliffs, new rock created by past eruptions meets the sea in sharp layers. It's an island defined by destruction, but shaped equally by its determination to rebuild. As the horizon widens, the next islands rise in a twin formation, one shaped like a butterfly, the other by a perfect volcanic cone, marking a shift into the French Caribbean arc. Mist clings to the summit of Guadeloupe, where La Soufriere anchors the island's volcanic identity with steady plumes rising from its crater. The twin wings of the archipelago, Basse Terre and Grande Terre, press rainforest against limestone plains, creating sharp contrasts in elevation and habitat. Basse Terre's rivers carve narrow channels through thick vegetation, forming waterfalls and natural pools fed by frequent rainfall. Grande-Terre offers a brighter coastline of shallow bays, fishing villages, and calm lagoons. Offshore, coral reefs and seagrass beds support turtles, squid, and schools of reef fish that drift between shallow shelves and deeper ledges. Guadeloupe's culture is Creole rhythm with French influence. As the last bend of coastline drops behind, another volcanic summit rises ahead. Clouds gather around Martinique, where Mount Pelée towers over an island defined by rainforest valleys, mangrove wetlands, and a coastline shaped by past eruptions. The northern region holds ash fields and old lava flows, reminders of the 1902 event that destroyed Saint-Pierre, leaving stone ruins still visible today. Farther south, mangrove forests thread through calm inlets, supporting fish nurseries and coastal birds. Fort-de-France curves around a natural harbour, carrying the island's cultural blend of Creole heritage, French architecture, and energetic street markets. Among coral heads at the edge of a shallow bay, a strange shape pulses once before blending almost perfectly with the reef. The frogfish hides in plain sight, camouflaging itself among coral, sponges, or rubble, with colors and textures that match its surroundings. It remains perfectly still until prey nears, then flicks a small lure attached to its head, mimicking a tiny fish to draw victims closer. When the moment comes, it opens its mouth with explosive speed, swallowing prey almost instantly. Frogfish seldom swim, preferring to walk along the seabed using modified pectoral fins. Their uncanny stillness and adaptability make them one of the reef's most surprising predators. Easy to miss, impossible to forget once seen. Pardon the interruption, but we're giving away freebies to everyone watching. If you love exploring our beautiful planet, there's a revolutionary new AI-powered travel app you need to know about. And Travpedia viewers get a special, free bonus just for tuning in today. It's called Trav Genius, your personal travel companion that helps you plan trips and get recommendations personalized to you from scratch, even when you don't know where to start. Already done your planning? Travgenius also keeps everything organized in one place and manages your journey while you're on the move. You can even collaborate with friends and get smart, real-time tailored recommendations anywhere in the world. It's an absolute game changer, and we think you'll love it. The app is completely free to download. For a limited time, Travpedia viewers will get early access and a full month of the app's premium version, including powerful AI features, absolutely free. Head to travgeniusinsider.com right now before the Insider Preview registration window closes. It's completely free, and you will not want to miss it. As the French Caribbean arc falls away, the journey shifts toward a larger island where mountain rain, urban life, and glowing coastal waters shape one of the region's most vivid identities. Moist trade winds gather around Puerto Rico, an island defined by the rainforest slopes of El Yunque rising above coastal plains. Rivers descend these ridges into mangrove-lined bays where brackish water supports tarpon, snook, and wading birds. Old San Juan sits on a rocky peninsula guarded by massive stone fortifications, its narrow streets filled with layered history and bright colonial facades. Along the island's eastern and southern edges, bioluminescent bays glow at night as millions of dinoflagellates ignite under the movement of boats, fish, or paddles. Inland, cool waterfalls spill through dense forest where tree frogs call from hidden leaves. Puerto Rico is the United States frontier in the dazzling Caribbean. Hidden among the leaves after dusk here, a tiny voice rises into the humid air with a sound recognized instantly across the island. The coqui frog calls in short, melodic notes that echo through Puerto Rico's forests each evening, marking territory and attracting mates. No larger than a thumb, it clings to leaves, branches, or house walls, thriving in moisture-rich environments created by frequent rainfall. Its call varies by region, with subtle differences between mountain and lowland populations. The coqui's presence reflects the island's ecological richness, able to live both deep within El Yunque and among urban gardens. Its nightly chorus has become a cultural symbol, carrying a sense of identity and home for Puerto Ricans everywhere. As the glow of bioluminescent bays fades behind, the journey bends southward toward the point where the Caribbean meets the rivers and forests of none other than the rich and stunning South America. Mangrove shadows lengthen along the sheltered waterways of Trinidad, where the Caroni swamp forms a maze of tidal channels, mudflats, and roosting trees. At dusk, hundreds of scarlet ibises return in bright red waves, settling onto mangrove branches in one of the Caribbean's most striking natural displays. Inland, lowland forests hold howler monkeys, armadillos, and bird species that seldom appear on smaller islands. Port of Spain grows along the Gulf of Paria, moving with calypso rhythms, carnival traditions, and a cultural mix influenced by African, Indian, Chinese, and European ancestry. To the northeast, Tobago offers quiet, clear water coastlines such as Pigeon Point and reef systems that support turtles, rays, and shoals of reef fish. Both islands bridge Caribbean and South American ecosystems, shaped by river outflow, complex currents, and deep cultural diversity. But it's important to understand that storms here don't just arrive from the ocean. They come downriver as well. Heavy rainfall inland can swell waterways, pushing sediment and fresh water toward the coast and changing marine conditions almost instantly. This is where Caribbean weather begins to feel continental, shaped by forces far beyond the horizon. Along the edge of the swamp, a flash of red gathers the eye as entire flocks converge on the same mangrove roost. The scarlet ibis returns to Caroni Swamp each evening, arriving in loose formations that thicken into brilliant clusters as the birds settle onto branches. Their crimson color comes from crustaceans in their diet, rich in carotenoids that deepen the shade of their feathers. During the day, they feed across mud flats and tidal pools, searching for small crabs and insects. At dusk, they rise together and drift inward, forming a spectacle that turns the mangrove canopy into a glowing red tapestry, one of the region's most dependable and mesmerizing wildlife displays. But past Tobago's beaches, darker waves build along the open Atlantic as a giant of the sea approaches the shore to repeat an ancient ritual. The leatherback turtle returns to Tobago's and Trinidad's beaches each nesting season, emerging at night to dig deep pits in the sand where it lays clutches of eggs. Females may travel thousands of miles between feeding grounds and these tropical nesting sites, guided by magnetic cues and inherited migration routes. Hatchlings emerge weeks later, racing toward the surf under moonlight while avoiding predators along the beach. Leatherbacks feed primarily on jellyfish in offshore currents, diving deeper than any other turtle. Their presence links distant oceanic routes with the Caribbean coastline, connecting vast pelagic systems to small stretches of sand. The coastline behind them fades into darker water as the Caribbean turns toward the mainland, where infinite rivers, forests, and sandstone plateaus begin forming the sea. Thick rainforest rises along the edge of Guyana, where the interior stretches into one of the largest untouched ecosystems in the region. Kayatur Falls drops in a single, uninterrupted curtain from a sandstone plateau, sending mist into valleys dense with orchids, bromeliads, and towering canopy trees. Blackwater rivers move slowly through shadowed forest, carrying tannins that deepen the water into dark amber. Small communities along the Essequibo and Demerara rivers reflect a blend of indigenous, Afro-Caribbean, and South Asian heritage, shaped by fishing traditions and inland travel. And wildlife moves freely across the forest. Jaguars, giant otters, monkeys, and countless bird species, drawing a direct connection between the continent's interior and the Caribbean basin it feeds. Guyana feels ancient, quiet, and expansive. Its landscapes seem untouched by the hands of time. High above the canopy, a massive silhouette grips a branch with talons strong enough to crush bone. The harpy eagle watches the forest below with near total stillness, its powerful wings folded tight against a body built for short, explosive bursts of movement. As one of the most formidable raptors in the Americas, it hunts the like of monkeys, sloths, and large birds through dense foliage, maneuvering with surprising agility for its size. Each flight is deliberate, gliding silently between trunks before launching upward to perch again. Harpies nest in enormous trees, returning to the same platform year after year. Their presence signals a healthy, unbroken rainforest, where apex predators still command the upper canopy and the deep interior remains shamelessly wild. Where the rivers flow outward and the coastline widens, the forest gives way to a different kind of Caribbean, one shaped by reefs, lagoons, and limestone keys. Shallow turquoise water surrounds Belize, where the Mesoamerican Barrier Reef stretches along the coast in long arcs of coral, mangrove, and seagrass. Ambergris Cay faces bright channels and calm shallows, while the Blue Hole drops into a circular void of dark limestone walls descending steeply into deep water. Inland, rainforests shelter howler monkeys and toucans, and ancient Maya sites, such as Caracol and Zunantunich, rise above treetops in geometric stone forms. Mangrove tunnels wind through coastal wetlands, supporting nurseries for fish, rays, and crustaceans that later move offshore to join the reef communities. The country's rhythm reflects its blend of Maya, Creole, Garifuna, and Mestizo cultures, carried through drumming traditions, fishing villages, and life shaped by water. And in the shadow of coral heads, a slow, confident nurse shark glides along Belize's seagrass beds and reef edges, its barbels sweeping the sand in search of crustaceans, mollusks, and small fish hidden beneath the surface. These sharks often rest motionless on the seabed during the day, gathering in small groups beneath ledges or inside coral overhangs. At night, They become more active, cruising through channels with gentle, undulating movements. Unlike faster, open-water predators, nurse sharks rely on suction feeding, creating powerful vacuum-like pulls that extract prey from tight spaces. They are calm, tolerant of divers, and perfectly adapted to the reef floor. A bit of a quieter side of Caribbean shark ecology. As the reef walls taper and the water turns darker with river-fed currents, the coastline bends toward a quieter world of canals, black sand beaches, and rainforest. And that's where dense humidity gathers along the Caribbean slope of Costa Rica. This is where Tortuguero's waterways weave through lowland rainforest and dark volcanic sand. Small villages sit beside narrow canals used as everyday routes between homes, forest clearings, and the open sea. Green mountains rise inland, catching heavy rainfall that feeds an intricate network of rivers flowing back toward the coast. Sea turtles nest on long beaches under moonlight, while herons, monkeys, and iguanas move through mangroves and tree canopies that thrive in near-constant moisture. The atmosphere carries the sound of insects, distant waves, and slow-moving boats sliding through water that reflects the dense vegetation overhead. Costa Rica's Caribbean side feels enclosed, intimate, and shaped entirely by water and forest. Beneath the surface of these canals, a slow-moving shadow drifts between roots and floating vegetation. The West Indian manatee glides through Costa Rica's brackish channels with quiet, unhurried movements, grazing on submerged plants and drifting through warm water with surprising precision. Its rounded body and paddle-like tail allow it to navigate tight spaces beneath mangroves, feeding on seagrass and freshwater vegetation carried downstream. Manatees surface softly for air, creating only small ripples before sinking again into shadowed water. Their gentle behavior and slow metabolism keep them close to calm, protected areas where boats move carefully and food grows year-round. In Tortuguero's quiet lagoons, their presence signals a thriving, balanced ecosystem shaped by rain, plant life, and steady tropical warmth. As the canals widen into open sea, limestone shelves rise again toward an island known for its vertical reefs and ancient maritime pathways. Clear blue water surrounds Cozumel, where strong currents sweep along towering coral walls that drop sharply into deeper channels. The island's west side holds some of the Caribbean's most recognized dive sites, places like Palancar Reef and Santa Rosa Wall, where sponges and coral fans bend under the flow. Inland, remnants of Mayan structures mark Cozumel's role as a pilgrimage site, with dense forest spreading over limestone terrain. San Miguel brings a steady rhythm of coastal life, harbor activity, small markets, and communities influenced by both island tradition and nearby mainland culture. It's a popular location for vacation goers, especially those traveling by cruise ship. Reefs sit unusually close to shore here, creating bright underwater corridors filled with turtles, groupers, angelfish, and the island's own distinctive species. This is the splendid toadfish, hiding beneath ledges and coral outcrops, its striped body and bright yellow fins glowing against the dim blue around it. Endemic to Cozumel, it hovers close to the seabed, using its flattened body to stay hidden until small fish or crustaceans approach. Distinctive, low grunts pulse from its throat, a sound used for communication in the narrow spaces it prefers. The toadfish seldom leaves its shelter, but when it does, its unusual coloring and shape make it one of the reef's most memorable sights, a species tied completely to this island's underwater identity. And then, beyond Cozumel, but only a stone's throw away, the coastline stretches toward a mainland where white sand beaches meet submerged cave systems, revealing an environment shaped by light above and silent darkness below. White sand and warm currents define Cancun and the Riviera Maya, where resort-lined beaches and millions of tourists stand above coral gardens and long shelves of turquoise water. Inland, the landscape changes dramatically as limestone gives way to cenotes, freshwater sinkholes leading into vast underground rivers illuminated by beams of sunlight. Many of them are accessible and a frequent spot for visitors. Much of this porous geology traces back to the ancient asteroid impact that ended the age of dinosaurs, whose buried crater fractured the Yucatan Plateau and created the ring of faults that helped form these interconnected cave systems. Tulum's seaside ruins sit above cliffs that face open water, and nearby wetlands support herons, turtles, and reef species moving through mangroves. Playa del Carmen carries a faster rhythm with ferries, music, and narrow streets shaped by coastal tourism and local culture. This region merges surface-level brightness with hidden geological complexity and subterranean water systems in a single stretch of coastline. In the darkness of these cavern systems, small wing beats echo softly before fading into the stillness. Among the stalactites and submerged chambers of the Riviera Maya, cave-dwelling bats navigate through narrow openings where fresh and salt water meet. They roost along high limestone ceilings, emerging at dusk to feed on insects that rise in humid air above the forest. Their sharp echolocation clicks bounce off stone pillars, helping them fly through spaces where almost no light reaches. These bats form key connections between underground and surface ecosystems, transporting seeds, controlling insect populations, and marking the quiet boundary between the visible world and the hidden one beneath it. Enjoyed this documentary? Be sure to subscribe and click this thumbnail on your screen right now to watch the next one that YouTube thinks you'll absolutely love to see next. See you soon.